Hey guys, this is Scott. Welcome to video that I'm going to title Predicta-rama, and hopefully by the time the video is over you'll understand why I'm calling it that. Almost all vintage TV collectors have at least one example of Philco Predicta in their collection. It's a real coup to have a nice working Philco Predicta. And they're really interesting sets that a lot of people are very attracted to. And actually today a nice well restored Predicta can bring quite a bit of money. But they're very interesting sets. They had a short life for a lot of different reasons. But the one we're looking at here is one that I just recently acquired for $30. And you can see here that the cabinet's in pretty rough shape. This is the Philco Predicta barber pole model, and it's got a few issues. The plastic housing or screen lens is in really poor condition. It smells terrible, and it's come off. It's missing a few knobs, and it's got a lot of rust and mud and stuff in it. And the story behind this particular set is that I got it in Joplin, Missouri, and some of you may recall Joplin, Missouri about 3 or 4 years ago had a horrendous tornado come through that town. And the fellow that I bought this from, his home was destroyed. Everything on his property was leveled, except for one small, probably 10 by 10 storage building, outbuilding, and this set was in there, and literally everything on the block was smashed but that storage building with this set inside of it. Now it sustained a lot of water damage, and you know, that's evident by what's happened to this set. But I paid $30 for it, and this is a key piece for me to have in upcoming Philco Predicta restorations, and I'll explain why. But yeah, it's in pretty poor condition. The back, which I've removed a little bit of, it's in decent shape. I think it could be cleaned up and dealt with, so that's a good piece. I don't know if the picture tube's any good or not. If it is, that's a big bonus, as these tubes are hard to find. But in particular, what I'm interested in is these knobs right here. This is the fine tuning and on and off, and then these two knobs, as well as this foot piece right here. If that, this looks like this could be refinished, it can be removed, and that would be a piece that I'm after, as well as the knobs. I'll explain why in just a second. The other key is the chassis. Hopefully, I haven't looked in there yet, but hopefully the flyback is good. Any one of these knobs or that flyback, if it's good in there, is worth well more than the $30 that I paid for this set. So the back leg back here is busted, and the wood has softened here. You can see it's in pretty bad shape. But the main reason I was interested in this set was for the knobs and for just the chassis in general. And I do have 2 other sets that use this chassis, so this will be a great chassis to pull out and have as an example of how it's constructed and how it goes back together. So it's a pretty pitiful looking set, but if that picture tube's good, the flyback is good, and I've already got my money back on the knobs, and I'll explain why on that in just a second. Okay, so here's the method to the madness of the roach set that I just showed you and why I was interested in that. This is the exact same model, only it's in a lot better condition. And as you can see, this cabinet is in great shape. The only thing that's wrong with it is right here on this 1 foot. If I can get it to focus, it has quite a bit of problems. So that may or may not be able to be repaired, but if I can get the other one off the other set, refinish it, it's in good physical shape. And then there are the missing knobs that I was mentioning. And those are extremely hard to find, and if you do find them, like this one here, that I purchased off of eBay for 40 bucks. It's one knob. It's the original Philco exact replacement part. Okay, it originally cost 95 cents. Today, if you can find them online, I've seen them sell for $50 or $60. So the Roach set has all the knobs that I need to complete this set. Okay, so that was important. And also my fine-tuning knob is cracked. I don't know if you can tell it from looking at it, just above the 12, and the one on the other set is not. So obviously it'll need quite a bit of cleaning. Those other knobs and these knobs are a little bit yellowed. This knob's in pretty good shape, but they can always be painted. So now I have a complete set of knobs for this set. The chassis, I've pulled the back, it's in really good shape. But the best part about this set is this picture tube. Now I'm not going to show you in this video, but I will when I start to restore this set. This picture tube test brand new. It's the original 2.3 volt filament volt tube. I can't recall the tube number off the top of my head, but I'm really excited. This tube test almost brand new, and you can put the life test on it in the tester and it holds firm. So one of the problems with Predicta to begin with was those tubes were not great. They didn't last long, but with this tube, if I can get this chassis restored and playing correctly, this tube, no more than this set will play, should last for quite a while. And there's minimal work that needs to be done to this cabinet. There's a scratch right there on the top, but that literally is about the only thing that is wrong with this cabinet. It will clean up and look brand new. So along with this set, I do have a holiday set that has a good 6.3 volt picture tube. I'll share that with you in a minute. And the interesting thing to note about that is they both use the exact same chassis. So it's my intention, hopefully later this fall, to do a dual restoration on the chassis at the same time and get two different sets, the barber pole and the holiday set, going at the same time. And the Roach set that I just showed you will play a big factor in that as I go about that. So that's Predicta number 1 to be restored. Okay guys, and as I said, I have the holiday set example here that uses the same chassis. It is the 9L37 chassis, and you can see this one's in great shape too. And the good news here is this is the replaced picture tube that uses the 6.3 filament voltage, and it tests in great shape as well. So I have two good examples of Predicta with great cabinets and 2 really good picture tubes. But we'll take a look at this one further and retest this tube just to make sure my memory is correct. I've had this about a year, maybe a little longer, and I tested the tube when I got it, and if I recall, it tests really, really well. So I'll show you that. Okay. Now I have a 4th example of a Predicta, and I'll show you that here in just a second. Okay guys, here is the last Predicta example that I have, and I affectionately call this the model that had no name. What this was, and I bought this very cheaply at a church sale for, I think I paid $75 for it, and it does work. It is the 17-inch model. It looks like, I think it's the Fiesta, if I remember correctly, the Fiesta model. What this was one of the last Predictas made. They had a run of a lot of these models that were left over and were sold to hotel chains, and that's exactly what this set was. I know this came out of a Holiday Inn. It was owned by Telesound Incorporated out of Philadelphia. It's a metal cabinet. As I said, this thing does work. It even has operating instructions on it for how to use the set. And it's kind of an oddball chassis. It's an 11, I can't remember the exact model number, but it's not showing on the back here. But I know that this, you see these all the time. They're available, and there were quite a few of them, and they were used in hotels. So I'm sure this set has quite a few hours on it, and it will be a later project. It's not a priority, but it is a transformer set, and the picture tube does test okay on this. And these 17-inch tubes were, I think, more reliable than the 21 inches at the time. So anyway, eventually I will get to this one and get it cleaned up and get it restored and working correctly. And I do have the service information on it, I just don't have it pulled right now. So I just wanted to give you a look at it, not give you too much detail, because this one's not on the radar screen anytime soon, but it is another example of Predicta that I have in my collection, and someday I will restore this, probably within the next couple of years. Okay, so now getting after the first order of business on the roached barber pole. Aside from the many useful parts I can get from this, I did make a great discovery. I've got it hooked up to the CRT tester because that is probably the most valuable part of this set, if in fact this picture tube's any good. And as I took this thing apart and did a little more inspection, got some great news. If you look right there, this TV has been modified for use with a Type 21 FDP4 cathode ray tube, which is what I'm assuming that this tube is. So got it cooking here at 6.3 volts, just like we will the holiday set, because I know there's a tag on the outside of it. that said that the tube had been modified. So I'm hopeful this set is good, or this CRT is good, I should say. There's no shorts, and right now the emissions don't look very good. But sometimes it takes a while for these to wake up. As I said, this set has not been treated very well going through a major tornado. So we'll just let this thing cook for a while and see what happens. You never know. It could come awake. There's a lot of mud and debris and dust in there. Could have even been some critters living in there. I know there's some down here with where the chassis is at. And it is in horrible shape, but there are a lot of useful parts, as I said. Well, what do you know, guys? Had this cooking for about 30 minutes now. And check this out. Emissions. That needle's starting to come up a little bit. It's possible. We'll keep letting it cook. Interrupt this video to check out the spring rains and storms we're having. Look at the creek in my backyard. That's a bunch of rain. Like you could go kayaking down that. Raining like crazy. Okay, so here's some great news. My Philco Holiday has been upgraded with a 21 FDP4 picture tube. So you can see here I have it cooking, and when I first put this tube tester, the B&K 465, on emission, it was like completely bad, which would not be surprising for this picture tube. Wouldn't surprise anybody that owns Predictas that this picture tube would be bad. And I've got a really good one in my pedestal set, but I just started letting this cook like you should do. And look at this. It's coming up. And this is after about 15 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna let this cook a little longer and see even a little emission in the good will produce a great picture on Predicta. So this is really, really, really exciting for me anyway, because finding a tube for a Predicta right now is virtually impossible, and if you do find one, you got to get ready to pay through the nose. So yeah, here we go. It's climbing even more. So I'll keep letting it go and cook it a little more, but she's coming back to life. So yeah, it's hopeful that I can have both a Holiday and a pedestal out of the 3 chassis that I've got. So anyway, guys, stay tuned for more. Alright, oh wow, it's even gone up even more. That's really, really exciting. Really exciting. Because at first I thought I had a dead tube, which would not shock anyone. So, okay. Okay, real quick before we leave this part of the Predicta-rama and on my holiday set that I plan to restore, just coming back about an hour later, guys, check it out. I'm well over 7, right in the middle of the good on this picture tube, which when I first fired up the tester was showing just a dead tube. So I think it's safe to say that I've got a barber pole and a holiday that I can restore. So as I get more into how I want to tackle this, I'm just delighted to know that I've got 2 good picture tubes, good 21-inch picture tubes to make 2 21-inch, or 2 a holiday and a pedestal out of 2 pedestals and 1 holiday. Now I still haven't checked the other pedestal set. I'm assuming it's the 2.3 or the 2.68 volt picture tube in that set, but with my barber pole being a 2.6 and testing good, those tubes weren't really that good, but this is really good news to have a 6.3-inch set testing this really this good. So good news, really good news. Okay guys, got the roached Predicta barber pole disassembled, and have the 9L37 chassis out on the bench. And what I'm doing now is I've removed and got all the tubes out and have checked them, and have begun the process of checking a few parts that I think might be needed for my other 2 Philco Predicta projects. But first of all, I've got these end caps, and what these are end caps that go on the end of the brackets for the the screen bezel there, and it's just simply a small trim piece that pops out, and my barber pole set happens to be missing one of those. So now I have 2 of those, and as you can imagine, that's a very difficult part to find, and I need to clean this up. It's kind of a brass plated type piece, and those should clean up good. Here is the knobs that I have scavenged from this set, and first is this was the original fine-tuning control that I had on my good barber pole, and you can see it's got a break in it there, as well as the channel clunker. And this is from the Roach set barber pole, and you can see it cleaned up real nice. It looks brand new, and have a really nice channel indicator clunker. So I have that, and then the on and off knob, which pushes in and you push in again to turn it off, and then this is the contrast control that sits right behind it. So I was missing that, and I have that now. And the brightness, horizontal and vertical controls are controlled by these, and I only had 2, so I needed 1 more, or I had 1, I needed 2 more, because this one is missing the metal band, so it was basically not functional. It needs that metal band to create tension here in order to turn the potentiometer. So got 2 of those, and those cleaned up real nice. So now I have a complete set of knobs for my barber pole. So that's good. And so moving on to the chassis, I removed 13 tubes out of the chassis, both out of the IF strip and the sweep board, as well as the damper tube. My horizontal output tube was broke, and there was no rectifier tube in this set, so had 13 tubes. 7 of them tested poorly, 2 of them were really bad, and the other 4 are marginal, so I'll hang on to those. And then these 6 tubes tested great. So it's kind of interesting that I think there was only 1 non-Philco tube in here. It just overall, it looks like the chassis has not been messed with much. I don't see a lot of replacement parts or hacks or anything like that. So it looks like it may have had a lot of its original tubes in it as well. Okay, so the other thing that I'm looking at is this on-off switch. Okay, so this is a plunger type on-off switch. You can see this one's kind of rusty and corroded looking, and it also serves as a contrast control, and I can tell from just turning these, the volume and the contrast control are really dirty, but I might be able to get those cleaned up and they may still work. But the key here is this on-off control. That plunger type control has a tendency to go bad in these sets, and what I want to do is just check and see here real quick if I've got continuity on that on-off switch. Then I've got a chance at using this control if the other sections to it are okay, or I can get them cleaned up. But the first thing is just to make sure that on-off switch works. So I have the meter in the sound mode, so when I turn the switch on I should hear a beep, and we do. That's really good. So I will disassemble that, I will clean that, and hopefully the other sections of that switch will check out okay, and we'll be able to use that. My holiday set over there has a switch wired into the back that somebody changed out. So hopefully if this control will work, I can get it back to original shape and use the switches it was intended to use. So the other thing I wanted to point out, a couple other common failure problems on Predicta sets are these tube sockets. They have a tendency to crack and break, and then there's foil traces underneath that have a tendency to crack and break when tubes are moved. And what happens is over time, just like on all these sets from this era, there's a lot of heat generated in here and expansion and contraction, and it causes a lot of problems. And here's a great example of that. Just getting this tube out of this socket, you can see what I did. I pulled up contacts here, and in essence I ruined this tube socket. So I'm going to be getting a few of these tube sockets in preparation for my restorations on my other two Predictas, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a problem. That's almost an automatic on this board. The other area of concern is these They're called K networks or couplets. These are early versions of an integrated circuit. These guys contain, where these bumps are capacitors. It's a package of capacitors and resistors. Pretty common on late 50s circuit boards. And in Predicta, I think it's this one here, or it might be this one here, I can't remember. Vertical integrator, I think it's this one. That's almost always a common cause of problems, especially in getting the vertical that you need on your picture tube. So I think there's 5 total on this board. They can be rebuilt, and I'm anticipating having to rebuild some of these because these were known to fail. So, and then the last piece that I've got that I'm taking a look at is the flyback, and this is really a great piece to have. Flybacks are, at least exact replacement flybacks are very difficult to find for Predicta, and if you can find one that someone has that's willing to sell it, you're probably going to have to pay a pretty hefty price because they're extremely rare, and anybody that has one that's willing to let go of it's going to command some pretty good money to get it. So glad to have this in case one of my other 2 sets, the flyback's bad. If this flyback checks out okay, that'll be a really big score on this set. I mean, I've already got my money back on this set, but if this is good, it's really a big win. So let's go ahead and check this thing, and we'll walk through how we're going to check it. This is the schematic. This is the flyback. And you can see here we have a plate cap to the horizontal output tube, which is right here. And then we have the plate cap for the high voltage rectifier, which is right here. And if you go through the schematic, it winds down through here, comes across here, comes over to there. And it's showing that we need to find 385 ohms. So let's go ahead and set up the meter and very carefully connect that there to one plate cap, and come over here and connect to this plate cap, and if I can get it on there. Kind of hard to do this one-handed. This lead clip has been bent, so it's kind of difficult to mess with. Alright, 377 ohms. We're looking for 385. It's close enough for me. Now the next thing I need to check is the ohms resistance through the leads on this terminal guide. So how I'm going to do that is they've included a handy little terminal guide, the connection points on your flyback here. And you can go to the schematic and you can see on between point D and connection 5 we should get 12 ohms. Now I've got to keep in mind that I'm looking at this thing backwards. So I believe we have connection 5 here. And what were we looking for? D. And I believe this is D. Right here. Looking for 12 ohms. 12.4. Okay, so that's good. So it looks like this point is good. This point is good. Let's go on down here in between 0.4 and 0.3. We're looking for 13 ohms. So according to that chart, it looks like this is 0.4, connection 4. And I think this is connection 3. And between 4 and 3, 13 ohms. 12.8. Okay. We're good there. So one more between point 3 and point B. B is going to be, that's point 3, so we don't have to move that, but B is going to be down here in the very bottom, right down there, that guy. And we are looking for, what are we looking for? 11 ohms. Okay, 10.5 ohms. So right now I'm saying this flyback transformer is ohming out, and it's in good shape. Now you see some cracks here on this hard plastic shell. That's pretty common on these. It's not really a problem. There are some high temp, high voltage type silicone sealants that you can get, and I'll probably end up doing that, especially here where this connection is. This appears to be very, very delicate, and you can fill this crack in, and you can even see some of the windings right there. And then right here, there may be some exposure of windings here. But that's not a big problem. And the last thing that I'll need to do is take my flyback and yoke tester and connect it to the flyback and do a continuity check, which I know is going to turn out good. And then there's an option on this checker for shorts. And the reason for that is, I mean, the flyback is ohmed out correctly. But just like you radio guys know, just because your transformer ohms out doesn't necessarily mean it's going to operate correctly, because there's no voltage put on it. Well, that's what this will do and will tell me. And I'm not going to video that because I've already done it. And I've got a good reading on both the shorts and the continuity. And the continuity we knew anyway from doing the ohm check. So as far as I'm concerned, considering this flyback good, and that is a big spare piece of equipment to have for Predicta as a spare flyback. I've heard some people say they've never ran into a problem with a flyback and a Predicta, and then I've also seen on other forums where guys have a really good Predicta set and chassis, but they're looking for a flyback, which is almost, as I said earlier, almost virtually impossible to find. So that's really, really good news for me. And then the last piece I have is, I told you about the feet of my other set. I need to get that off of this cabinet. And structurally, the wood on these feet are in better shape than the one I have on the cabinet of the set I'm going to restore. So I'm going to salvage that, and maybe a couple of other parts on here, and the rest of it's going to go by the wayside of the trash. You can see that this is really, really in poor condition. It's not reusable, but regardless, got a tune or two, and it has quite a bit of rust on it, but I'm going to do some rust de-rusting work on that, hopefully clean that up, as well as this shield. You can tell it's really bad. This is the IF strip shield. Don't think I'll have any reason to use this, but I'll probably clean it up and keep it. And then the high voltage cage itself that goes over the flyback, it's got some problems, but I'll clean it up. I've actually seen a case where a guy had a good barber pole Predicta, but he didn't have a flyback cage, which is always a good thing to have on a TV. I think he did end up getting one, but maybe there'll be somebody out there looking for one, and I can help them out with that. And then all these potentiometers, these are dual controls. Hopefully those will be salvageable. They're a little bit rusty, but you know, a little bit of rust is easy to take care of. It's just a matter of whether they work or not, and there's not too much damage to the carbon traces on the inside, and they'll still be able to be used. Okay? So like I said in the beginning, it'll probably be later this fall before I start a dual restoration on my Predictas, but just wanted to get these parts out, get this set taken care of, and have a donor chassis before I started. And I think what's next on my agenda will be completion, and then following that I'll probably dive into the Predictas. I usually have a little bit more time in the fall and winter to work on televisions now that summer's coming to a close. And hopefully you guys will enjoy that journey with me. But until then, stay tuned. There's more TV work to come. Appreciate you guys watching and subscribing. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks.